Good evening. Good evening, good evening. Thank you all for coming tonight. It's beautiful to see the response of our community filling up our shul for an evening as important as tonight. I just want to quickly express our deep hakarat tov to Rav Doron for being with us here in our community, and I want to, I just want to touch on that maybe on two levels. Number one, on a communal level, and to this I'm speaking very much to Rav Ilan Mezer as well, how impacted our community is, both here in the microcosm of TBDJ and the larger Montreal Jewish community. How impacted we are by the Mizrachi influence, by the Mizrachi energy, with the Benot Shirut, with the Shlichim, with the Kola. Our community wouldn't be who we are today without the influence of Mizrachi. So to have the leader, the director, executive director of World Mizrachi here with us, just for that Dayan, just for that, it's so special to have you here with us, Rav Doron. On the second level, I guess I can call this personal, but at the same time in my life, personal and communal are very much dovetailed into one another. All our lives turned upside down on October 7th, about 20 months ago, and when you're in a position, rabbinic position, where whether we have something to say or not, we're put up there at the pulpit. Looking back, being thrusted onto the bima on Shmini Atzeret, when the news was coming in. Hashem Svatai Tiftach Ufi Agid Tilatach. I don't know what to say, you don't know what to say. And week after week, whether it is the first yard site of all the Kedoshim of October 7th, last Shmini Atzeret, and all the Shabbosim in between, a week has not gone by at TBDJ that the messages of our show from me have not been centered around the triumph and the pains and all the mixed emotions that we're all feeling since October 7th. And to me, it was an impossible task to try to give expression to the impossible. And for me, every week I've turned to Rav Doron's Divrei Torah, because what he experienced, everyone here has experienced on a smaller level. The inability to comprehend the opposite emotions, both so strong. And to me, my Gadol Hador, really, the greatest of the generation, since day one of this new era of post-October 7th, has been Rav Doron. And I mean that the messages you have heard week after week from me have been, sometimes I share that I heard it from Rav Doron, and other times it's just the ma'ayan of the ways that I'm thinking. Personal hakaras tov, and I know I'm speaking from really every rabbi around the world, trying to contextualize the triumphs and the atrocities all at the same time. And you have been the mouthpiece of trying to figure all that out. So I wouldn't have been able to do what we've been up to here without you, and in turn, every single one of you have been touched directly and indirectly from the messages of Rav Doron. So again, on a communal level, on a personal level, it means so much that you are here with us tonight. So thank you, Rav Ilan Mizrachi. Thank you, Rav Doron, for being here. Before we have the opportunity to hear, actually, we're going to call up Rav Doron right now, and after, we'll have an opportunity to hear a little bit from Rav Ilan as well. So please.
Thank you very much. It's truly an honor for me to be in Montreal for the first time. I'm embarrassed that it's the first time in Montreal. Je suis heureux de faire votre connaissance. That's almost the beginning and end of my French, but it's a nice line to know. And also especially to be in TBDJ. Bailey, thank you. It took me a while to learn it. I was saying in the beginning KPMG. It took me a while, but eventually I got it. TBDJ. I'm going to get it off by heart. You know what? It'll take me a bit. And it really is wonderful to be here. Of course, the reputation of this community precedes it in so many ways. As a bastion of religious Zionism, deep commitment to Am Yisrael, Torah Israel, and the centrality of Perez and Israel. To visit also the Hebrew Academy, where Kollel Torah Mitzion has been active for so many years. I had this also to visit Akiva this morning, and this community with this shul and the school and is really a bastion of so much, which is what religious Zionism is all about. It's an honor for me to be here with my friend and colleague, Rabbi Ilan Meza, who we brought on board a number of years ago. I made Aliyah for the second time 11 years ago. I made Aliyah when I was 18 from South Africa. You might have guessed my accent. Fellow Commonwealth Hebron. And I moved when I was 18 to Israel. But I thought it would be 1 or 2 years in yeshiva, and I wanted to go and study medicine in South Africa. But then I stayed on in yeshiva. My parents made Aliyah subsequently, and I was in Israel for 10 years. And I married my wife. She's from Cape Town. I'm from Johannesburg. Our oldest son, Jonathan, was born. And then we returned in 1999 for a 2 or 3 year shlichut to Johannesburg, South Africa, to build the re-energized Mizrachi movement of South Africa. And my 2 to 3 year shlichut became 15 years. And we returned in 2014, thank God, almost exactly 11 years ago. In Tammuz, in July 2014, in the middle of Tzuk Eitan, Operation Protective Edge. And we've been there for the last 11 years. In the first 8 years as the Executive Director or CEO of Mizrachi, and now as the Executive Chairman the last few years. And part of our reinvigoration around the world is Rabbi Ilan joining us in Toronto and playing a major role. Toronto and across Canada, so it's lovely to be with you, Rabbi Ilan. And it's a tremendous privilege also to be in the community, but also with my new very close friend, Rabbi and Rabbi Kleiman, Razoli, and Penina, who also are my hosts. And I think your children have all become close friends, especially Alicia. We're very tight, Alicia now. We shared at the Chaim. I drank a good glass of Sagot wine this evening, and him, I think it was orange juice, but it was very special. And thank you for the very, very warm and kind, wonderful words. And I know that it's now your 3-year anniversary. Shavuot was 3 years, and have done and are doing an incredible job. And you and your Rebbetzin and family should be blessed to continue to lead this community for many, many, many years. And they should continue to grow like Deal Torah, Eretz Israel, or La'ad in every possible way. The Rav, I've just seen Rav, and that's Fachima. What do you call yourself here? Fecha. I'm calling you Fachima. So to meet the Rav and also many of the Mechanchim at the school should all continue to grow from strength to strength in every possible way. I think, nothing really prepared the Jewish people for what happened on Simchat Torah. Nobody expected it. Not one Tochnit Megera, not one alternative plan in all of the great Israeli military intelligence's thinking. None of it ever included in any eventuality, in any alternative, what happened on that day. You look at the worst possible scenario of what could have happened in a hostage situation in Gaza, and nothing got close in any way, in the wildest dreams, nightmares, and imaginations of our military intelligence, what happened on that day. And here we are 613 days later, dealing with the reality. It's very, very hard to believe that almost 2 years later, 612 days, we still have 55 hostages in Gaza. It's unimaginable, yet it's our reality. Of course, it's affected very personally many, many families. Our family is one of them. I was just speaking to my wife before she went to bed, and I think the last few weeks have been, its ups and downs have been particularly difficult. we were, I think what's really been the entire period almost from day one, I'd say from day 3, which I'll explain why in a moment, has been this up and down, bittersweet, excruciatingly pain, but tremendous privilege as well, from the word go. And I think when Idan Alexander got out, we know the Alexander family very well, especially all of the families of the male soldiers become very close, because from the word go, there was a lot of self-organizing into groups. It became very clear to us in the beginning that the last to come out would be male soldiers. Very early on, the female soldiers organized into a group, and it was clear that both Israel and I think others were aiming that they should get released as women on a humanitarian basis. And it became very, very clear that all things being equal, this very harsh reality that not only have a son who's a child who's a hostage, he's a boy, he's a soldier, and he's an officer, and in all likelihood is going to be the back of every line. And we got together as the families of the male hostages and lobbied together. But really from the word go, it's been this challenge. So when Idan Alexander came out, for us it was a watershed moment. Here is a male soldier who's alive, coming out almost without any seeming price to be paid. On the one hand, it was incredibly hopeful for us, firstly, so happy for the Alexander family, who we know very, very well, and very hopeful that perhaps there'll be other such unexpected releases. But then almost momentarily thereafter, you all of a sudden feel, as my wife, who always keeps me very grounded with this, says, Doron, we're not going to get Daniel back like that. He's not going to be at his feet. He's going to be in a box. And that happiness, but yet painful realization, and then speak about the deal, and then it raises thoughts. I keep saying, no, just as you put it out your mind, where's Daniel? Is he in the ground? Is he in a cupboard? Is he in a tunnel? Is he in a fridge? Where is he? And the things you put out of your mind would sort of just come back annoying, and then the Chagai couple, which came out recently, happiness that they're able, husband and wife, to close the circle, but then where are we? And then of course the Thai worker who just came out. So it's an ongoing sugya that, who could have imagined? What happened that day, as you all know, 1,250 soldiers and civilians were killed, as you all know, in the most horrific, barbaric ways imaginable. And as you know, our son was one of those, so not one of the 1,250. Over and above the 1,250, there were 251 hostages. And our son, Daniel, we'll see a video in a moment. Some of you may have seen the video, but I want to share this brief 8-minute video. It's a reflection that we put together. It's me talking about Daniel, a reflection on October 7th. A year later, I spoke at the UN at a tekes ceremony for the hostages, and for some of the meetings we had, I put this video together as a reflection of a father about his son. And Nachal Oz base, where Daniel was based on that day, was the worst hit base in Israel. 53 soldiers were killed in that base out of 300 that day. So Nachal Oz was the worst hit base. 1/6 of all soldiers killed were from Nachal Oz, excluding 10 hostages. The 7 female hostages, the 7 female soldier, the Tatzpitaniot, who thankfully all came back. Unfortunately, one of them deceased and the other 6 alive. And the remaining 3 are from my son's tank. Daniel, Hashem Yikom Damo, Itai Chen, Hashem Yikom Damo, and Matan Unrest. The video was just released by the family today. Matan is alive. He was taken out the tank, he was injured, perhaps lost consciousness. The other 3 were killed. Turns out we didn't know that until 163 days later, that Daniel had been killed on October 7th on Simchat Torah. But Matan was in the driver's chair of the tank. It's in a different place. And Daniel's tank, after 2 hours and 16 minutes of tremendous bravery, and some of it is described here, was unfortunately shot, injured, and perhaps killed then. We only heard 163 days later, based on video evidence in a town called Sajaria in eastern Gaza City, where his body was, where he was seen on a motorbike between two terrorists, and his death was declared based on this evidence. So that's the story of Daniel. But that's not all which happened to us on that day. Our oldest son, Jonathan, also fought on that day. Daniel, a tank commander and officer. Jonathan in the paratroopers, a company commander, an officer, also an officer, who was training 140 new recruits in Dudman Echad, Brigade 101 of the paratroopers. He was at home with his then fiancée Galia and our family in Yad Binyamin. When he heard what was going on, he sped off, drove at 170 kilometers an hour to Sderot, where his officer called him, and then fought for the next 6 hours with a handgun. In Sderot, somebody got injured from Seret Matkal. He took his helmet. Somebody else, a very close friend of his from the army, Yedidya Sror, got shot in the stomach and taken to hospital. He took his gun and his shachpatz, his vest, and then went to Somet Shana Negev, Kfar Aza, Saad, and eventually ended up being sent by the army into, of all places, Nahal Oz, in order to reclaim the base. As he went in, he was talking, the soldier next to him in their group was talking to one of the female soldiers who managed to climb out of the burning operation room, explaining where they were. The only person who knew where she was Jonathan, because Jonathan knew the base very well. He both served in the base many years before and had visited his brother Daniel on many occasions. He knew exactly where she was, and he led the soldiers. He was actually the first Israeli soldier to go back into Nahal Oz base. They managed to save all 7 of those 5 female and 2 male soldiers who managed to get out of the base, out of the burning operation room. They saved another 15 female soldiers, and towards the end of the battle, Jonathan was shot in the thigh, ambushed by a number of terrorists, and he was shot in the thigh, in his left thigh. The person on the left of him was shot in the back, on the right of him shot him in the stomach. Thank God today they're all okay. So for me, I think in the first 48 hours, at the end of the first day, I had one son injured in Soroka Hospital and another son missing. And we've got 2 sons and 2 daughters in that order. And I could barely breathe for the first 48 hours. And then the turning point for me happened on Monday, October 9th, where for a number of reasons I had the following thought. All of a sudden I said to myself, and a lot of things led to this realization, that I was able to articulate and say, Baruch Hashem, Jonathan is okay. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, I'm actually very grateful that I can feel with a full heart and say the words, I'm lucky, thank God. And I'm saying, well, what do you mean you're lucky? You've got a son who's missing, probably a hostage in Gaza. And it was the first time I had this thought. I said, hang on, but that doesn't change the fact that Jonathan was saved by miracle. One of the things which led to it was his officer telling us what had happened on that day. A lot of people who came at the time that Jonathan came got killed. And I needed a whole hour to tell you how many times he could have been killed before firing 1 shot, and how many miracles after miracles took place. And that was one of the things which contributed to the realization of how lucky I feel that Jonathan survived. And he said, what do you mean lucky? Look what's going on with Daniel. But then also I said, yeah, but that doesn't change the feeling of appreciation and gratitude. And I think that ability to sort of feel totally conflicting feelings which shouldn't be able to be contained at the same time was for me the beginning of 612 days of trying to accept the following realization, that our family is broken, it will be broken forever, and I want it to be broken. I don't want to get over my son's loss. Who wants to get over something like that? Did he mean so little to me that life goes on and you get over it? You should never get over it. But at the same time, you can't be defined by it. It's not the only thing that I have in my life. There's so much else. I had a son, Jonathan, who Baruch Hashem got married 10 days later in a small wedding. We cancelled the wedding hall and we did the wedding 10 days later. Mishato Bizmano. He came to tell us after the Shiva. We got up from Shiva at Purim. A number of months later, he came to tell us that him and his wife were expecting a child. It's a boy, and they're expecting it on Purim 1 year later. The baby was born after Purim Shulash, a year or 2 days later. He was named Ori Daniel, in memory of Daniel. And therefore, the whole period has just been one of so much brokenness, but so much gratitude and appreciation on so many different levels. And that's what it's been the whole time. And maybe the greatest thing that I've learned in the pain is what I've called the topic of this talk, is the pain and the privilege. I've never ever felt more pained, at times excruciatingly pain, on a daily basis for being a Jew. But I've never ever felt more privileged and more proud. I've never felt that the world needs the Jewish people more than they need them, which perhaps I'll reflect on. I've also never ever felt more pained to be part of our community, of the religious Irish community, which has paid the most above and beyond. 15% of the Israeli population, 50% of the losses since October 7th, just unimaginable. I've never felt so pained to be part of such a community, but never ever more proud. And when I see the Haredi parties and members of Israel digging in their heels, I less feel contempt and negativity towards them, more than I feel how proud I am to be part of a Torah which hears the cries of our people, which understands that you can be deeply committed to Hashem and Torah and learning Yeshiva and strive to be a Talmid Chacham, and at the same time understand that you have to hold different but maybe conflicting sentiments. Just as we've had to hold so much pain and so much gratitude, you can hold a desire of completeness of Talmud Torah and hold the need to stand at the breach when our people are facing some of their most challenging moments. Our son Jonathan said a beautiful thing, and with this I want to introduce the video. It was very difficult for me at the bris because he told us just before that he is going to name the child. The second name will be Daniel. He wanted to just give us some warning that it wouldn't be nine, and it's like everything this year. It would be very meaningful and very happy, but very painful. So he wanted to let us know, especially since I was going to be naming the baby. So it was very painful. I've named a lot of children in my life, and I've also named children after those who passed away, but I never imagined that I would have to do this about my son. And it was a very proud but very, very painful moment I couldn't really get the words out. But then when Jonathan spoke, he said an amazing thing. He shared why he called the baby, him and his wife, Ori, the David Hashem. Ori, Hashem is my light. It's the day that we stopped saying Psalm 27, the David Hashem on that day. And he spoke about light and the meaning of light, and then he said a beautiful thing. He said, Ori is not Daniel. He's a different person. He's Ori. But his second name also reflects the fact that he's also named after his heroic uncle, Daniel. And he said a beautiful thing. He said, our hope for Ori is that he will not live in the shadow of his courageous uncle, but live in his light. And I just want to share with you, it's about 8 minutes. We've done a number of tributes to Daniel. Some of you may have seen that there recently was publicized in Israel a 2-part series in Hebrew of investigative journalism on the battle in defense of Nahal Oz. And a significant part of this was dedicated to tank Perez. They called the tank after the commander, which fought an unbelievably brave and courageous battle. And you can see it because 2 hours and 16 minutes of the video of the Daniel's tank fought from 6:45 in the morning until 9:01 and 46 seconds. And we know this because of the black box of the tank, where the army let us listen to it. And it was, again, just reflecting the same thing. Listening to 2 hours and 16 minutes sitting, listening to the last 2 hours and 16 minutes of your son's life is not an easy thing to do. You know how it's going to end, and it's so painfully tragic. But at the same time, what a gift. What a gift to be given that you can hear the last 2 hours and 60 minutes of your son's life when he fought with such calmness, such clarity, such devekut b'masima, sticking to the mission at hand, so calm. And you see him speaking to his soldiers, and they see a whole bunch of dead Golani soldiers. And one of them is saying, "Oh, ko'ev alev," and it's so, and getting all emotional. He says, I said, "Guys, detach yourself from emotions, we're at war." And then the next part, he gathers a whole bunch of an APC, army personnel carrier of Golani soldiers whose commander had been killed, and there were just a few of them left in the tank, and he brings them under his command. And from that moment at 8:35, the last 25, 26 minutes, you now see Daniel's tank because the APC has a camera and it's now filming Daniel. And he says to the guy, he says, "You got something to shoot with?" The guy says, "Yes." He says, "Okay, follow me." And then he makes up, he's the most senior officer still alive, even though he's a junior officer, and he brings the APC under his command, and then he says, and all you hear this, he says, "Chevra, our role is to prevent the taking of hostages. We know that Hamas have taken over the base, and they're going to attempt to take hostages. We're going to go," he says, "follow me, we're going to a tank position outside the kibbutz, and our job is at all costs to stop the taking of hostages." And as he's driving towards the base, he sees a few soldiers. He thinks they might be Hamas soldiers. He realizes they're Israelis. He tries to talk. It's a commander of the Tzalafim, of the sharpshooters. He tries to talk to him. The guy can't hear him. He actually gets off the tank, and this you see because of the video from the APC. He actually gets off the tank, gives the soldier a hug, explains to him what's going on, directs him in a way that saved his life. The soldier, Shalom Kari, survived, and he's interviewed in this program. So a tremendous gift to be able to see how he functioned. At the last image we have of him is hugging the lost soldier, saving his life, directing him. And then the last 10-15 minutes where he leaves the safety of his tank position, realizing he's the last line of defense, as I'll explain in the video. So there are a number of tributes and gifts. This is one, it's a personal reflection that we put together for October 7th, of me sort of maybe honestly reflecting what I learned from and about Daniel. So I invite you to watch it, and thereafter a number of reflections. was working 1 moment ago, so that's our little. So there we saw the Klein family. That's in Canada somewhere. It's my friend Elisha. There we go.
Captain Daniel Perez was a 22-year-old commander of a tank unit stationed at Nahal Oz base on the Gaza border. Along with thousands of Israelis, Daniel was called upon to put his life on the line on perhaps the most fateful day in Israel's modern history. Taken hostage with 2 crew members, Daniel was declared dead 163 days later. His body has yet to be returned to Israel for burial. His father, Rabbi Doron Perez, the executive chairman of World Mizrachi, takes us through Daniel's journey from a self-focused teenager to a self-actualizing young man to a selfless hero.
Daniel was the most energetic, ADHD, fun-loving teenager you could ever imagine. I think he was the happiest when he was with his friends. He had so many friends from every stage of life, from South Africa, Israel, religious, secular backgrounds, all types. Daniel, I think, was the best friend you could have, so beloved and so invested. His older brother Jonathan and him were the best of friends, close since they were small, growing up together. They would play, have fun, and fight with each other. And indeed, when they grew older, they connected about challenges in the army, life, and leadership. Deep bonds of brotherly love. 1, 2, 3. Yes, that's actually smart. Just, okay, guys, that's how you march. March around the room. This is the soldiers march. He absolutely loved sport, especially high-octane extreme sports, whether it was being a super-fast ice skater, wakeboarding, whether he was going full speed over a ramp, doing 360-degree flips in the air. No one loved high-octane energy more than Daniel. Eventually, during a wakeboarding accident, he fell, tearing some ligaments and cartilages in his knee. Despite operations and 9 months of physical therapy, Daniel was disqualified from combat. He would have to give up his dream of being the Sayeret Commander of Golani. Despite being clever and quick in the uptake, Daniel would not have been satisfied with a desk job. He felt he needed to direct his prodigious energies towards combat, so he actually fought with the army doctors for months on end until they raised his physical profile just high enough so he could enlist to the tank corps. Daniel absolutely loved the tank, both its complexity and its power. He became a disciplined, highly professional soldier, always striving for excellence. I saw him as a young man involved in self-actualization, wanting to be the best that he could be. Indeed, he was selected to be a commander and was chosen as the outstanding commander of the entire force. He continued thereafter to officers' corps where he excelled as well, and then received his own tank crew known as TBDJ. He was then offered to participate in the next stage of development as an officer, to be a company commander. In fact, one of my last conversations with him was about his deliberations whether or not to continue further in the army. I felt that Daniel was at the best stage of his life that I'd ever seen him, and I was so impressed with his thought process and maturity. Then came October 7th. I have to admit that I thought Daniel's primary motivation was self-actualization and self-fulfillment, personal achievement, and not selflessness for a greater cause. How wrong I was. A great gift we received from Daniel was his diary that was returned from Nachamo's base, a diary we knew nothing about. Now that he was an officer, commanding soldiers for the first time and making literally life and death decisions, he began to be deeply introspective. On the opening page, he wrote a heading, "The things I think about before going to sleep." Here he asked himself a question: why am I here? To this he answered, there Yet since he had gone to Poland in grade 11, he understood the price the Jewish people had paid when they did not have the ability to defend themselves. Now that he was a soldier and commander, he felt he had this duty to defend his people. And then, on a separate line, he wrote a charge to himself. In law, ani, asmi, if not me, then who? It was this very sentiment of taking full responsibility for others that was exactly what drove Daniel on the most fateful day, not only in his life, but of the Jewish people in our generation. On that day, Daniel and his 10 group fought valiantly for 2.25 hours against the first wave of Nukhba terrorists. He then noticed tens of motorbikes crossing the border, the second wave, each armed with an RPG. He could have remained in the safety of his tent position and fired shells at them, killing some, but knowing all well that the majority would certainly get through. Fully aware that it was the last line of defense, Daniel did not hesitate for a moment. Without any concern for his safety, he left his position and charged straight at them. Shelling, shooting, zigzagging, trampling, Perez did all they could to stop every single terrorist until eventually his tank was overrun, where he was shot, killed, and taken hostage.
What's really, really special about this day, and really inspires me personally, is next to each grave of any halal, any person or soldier that has fallen for the state of Israel, there's an Israeli soldier that comes, speaks to the parents, supports them, really just gives them respect for what they've done for the country.
Daniel Ishtamudot, Daniel the Beloved. That was what we wrote both on his bar mitzvah invitation and sadly on his grave. We also engraved 3 additional phrases that we believed encompassed who he was. He stuck to the mission at hand, fought with bravery, and saved many lives. You know, in looking back, I see how a young teenager, as teenagers are, focused on himself as the center of his life. How he grew into a self-actualizing 20-year-old focused on personal achievement, and then emerged as a courageous, selfless 22-year-old hero focused only on the well-being of others. Genuine Mesirat Nefesh. You know, when speaking to Daniel's closest friends, and specifically when reading his diary, I'm reminded of the reflections of Otto Frank, the father of Anne Frank, when he read his daughter's diary. He said that only when reading the diary did he learn so much about his daughter that he didn't know, even though he spent years in such close proximity to her. So too do we feel that we learned parts about our son, significant parts that we never really knew. This fills us with both great pain and enormous pride at the very same time. On that day, when the Jewish people needed him most, Daniel was totally committed to what he had written to himself when he became an officer. If not me, then who?
An entire generation of young fighters, as exemplified by Daniel Hashem together with his brother and best friend Jonathan, who also fought bravely and was injured, revealed to us who they really were. A selfless and heroic generation, willing to sacrifice their lives to protect our people, our land, and everything we stand for.
One of the things one struggles with in loss is getting used to a new reality and always looking for ways to learn and grow and deal with it in the best possible way. I bought the Time magazine in London. I flew by London and I was reading it on the way here. And there was an amazing piece about loss and absence. And it really resonated with me because it's exactly something I've been thinking about. Because I read the same idea in a book by an Italian author which was translated into Hebrew called Har Hashem. It's called The Mountain of God. And in this, his name is Eri de la Rocca. he writes an amazing thing. He speaks about loss. And he says that every time one feels loss and the pain of loss, instead of only seeing it as the lack and as absence, maybe one can see it as a sense of presence. That every time one feels pain and yearning, maybe it's not the absence, but maybe it's a visit. Maybe it's a sense of presence. And for me, that's the relationship with my son and anyone who has loss, is being able to try and deal with a new reality where absence is also a sense of presence. Just as when we miss somebody, absence makes the heart grow fonder. It's the absence itself which creates a sense of presence. And I just want to share with you the new relationship we have with Daniel. Often my wife and I go once a week, once every 2 weeks to his grave. My wife gets a lot of strength from going to his grave. It's very painful, but we're very, very lucky that we have a grave. Daniel's the only grave on Mount Herzl of those who've passed since October 7th, those who were killed, who has a grave, but there's no body there. The reason he has a grave is because his blood-stained uniform was found with blood in and around the tank. And when we heard that news, it was so painful to know that Daniel had been injured. We heard that in day 35. And I always thought that Daniel would survive if he survived the first day. But I didn't know if he survived the first day. And once we got this news about we knew about the blood, but we didn't know it was his blood. Once we heard it was his blood, and the uniform and the blood in around the tank, I didn't have a good feeling about it, and it was so much more painful. But it also was the reason that we were able to bury something. Had we not had that, we wouldn't have a grave. Of the 55 hostages still held, 20 are still alive, 2 are questionable, and 33, and Daniel amongst them, have been declared deceased. The majority do not have a grave. So we feel blessed that we have a grave. We hope and pray that his body will be brought there very soon. But often we go to the grave, and there's notes. People visit and they leave a note. And I just want to share with you, I'll probably get emotional, but I'll try and contain myself. This is what somebody wrote the 30th of April 2025. It was a note on his grave. And every other time we go there, the note's like this. And this is getting used to our new relationship with Daniel and the people he's touching who he never knew. My dearest friend Daniel, what a pleasure it is to finally meet you. It feels so safe next to you. I just wish I could give you a hug and thank you. But by the will of Hashem, I didn't get that privilege, so I'm writing this to you. I owe you so much. I haven't even met you. Let me introduce myself. My name is, what her name is. As of today, I'm 19 years old, but I'll be 20 on the 7th of October. I was born and raised in Johannesburg, South Africa. I'm delighted to tell you that as of February 27th this year, I'm now Israeli, and as of April 8th, I'm in my Tzav Rishon process, having been enlisted to the army, trying to get into a certain department. Let me explain to you how I got here. I finished high school in 2023. I spent the following January volunteering in Israel. I then went to university where I just felt estranged. I heard of an opportunity to visit Israel in a program called Birthright. There I met your father and your friend Idan. He was a madrich in the program and somebody who was an officer with my son in the army. They both love you so much. They told me your story and gave me your sticker. This is why I'm here. Because you're right, if not me, then who? I never got the honor to meet you. I never got the pleasure. Maybe one day I will. I'll get to meet you. Until then, I'm going to be fighting for you. and living for you. I hope to help to contribute to this cause you love so much, this country. I hope to do something of which you'd be proud. Help me, please. Just watch over me, dear brother. I love you so much. With love, your little sister, she signs her name. All of us get a chance to touch and influence different people in our lives. In Daniel's case, he was an unbelievable friend to so many people during his life. And for whatever reason, he's now impacting people that he didn't know in his absence. But absence is presence, and yearning is not only a sign of absence, but a visit in the present. And we have to choose how we view the world, and we have to choose how we view life. And I just want to end maybe with one or two final thoughts. Being a Jew means being part of a people who have always chosen to view the cup half full. The power of hope, the power of emunah, the power of tikva. If ever there was a people on God's earth which had every opportunity to feel that life has dealt us a painful, difficult, challenging deal, it would be us. And I'm so proud, and we're so proud to be part of a people which acknowledges the pain of Jewish history, but isn't defined by it, can transcend it. And I just want to share with you that this, I see for the last 2 years, is really the story of the Pesach Seder. It dawned on me that when we tell our children every single year, we tell our children what it means to be part of the Jewish people. And I love to quote Rabbi Beryl Wine, who says that nostalgia is remembering things the way they were not. Jews are not nostalgic. The mitzvah of zachor is to remember things the way they were. And boy oh boy, do we tell our children on Seder night the way Jewish life and Jewish history is. We gather our children around the table and we say to them, Ha lachma anya. This is the bread of affliction. You need to know, it's not so easy to be a Jew. You need to know that there's a lot of brokenness. And the only day of the year, the only Shabbos and Yom Tov of the year that we make a bracha not on lechem mishnah, but on one whole and one broken piece of matzah, according to the Rambam. Rashi says you've got to have 3 breads, that's what we do, 2 matzahs complete and 1 we break. Rambam says it's enough to have 2, because you should make it on a broken piece of matzah. Why? It's called lechem prusa, broken matzah. Why? Because it says lechem oni. This is the time of the year where we tell our children there is so much completeness, but there's also brokenness. This is the bread of affliction that we ate as hostages and captives in Egypt, a half-stale piece of pita for almost 100 years. Avadim hayinu leparo b'Mitzrayim. Here my son and daughter eat some maror. Life is challenging. And if you think the challenges of Egypt are in the past, we break the Bible and we say no. Shebechol dor vador omdim aleinu chaloten. Only dawned on me last year. Shebechol dor vador omdim aleinu. What does omdim aleinu mean? Someone is standing over us, planning to kill us. Omdim, someone standing over you. In every generation. This for me was a frightening thought, because I never worried about that. Since we've got a state of Israel, I've only been born in an era of post the state of Israel, post the Yom Kippur War. I've only known, I haven't been cognizant of any existential threats that the Jewish state has faced in my lifetime. Yes, there's Iran building a nuclear bomb, but somehow we seem to be on top of that. We're always thwarting them. We got the Mossad, we're okay. All of a sudden we woke up on October 7th, Simchat Torah, and we were not so okay. I do not believe it's an exaggeration to say that on another day, had we lived in a godless world, in the world of Pharaoh, in the world of Haman, in the world of Hitler or Sinwar, had we been in a godless world, it's not an exaggeration to say, in my opinion, that the state of Israel could have fallen. The fact that only 1,250 people were killed and not 10,000 by the 5,500 terrorists. Can you imagine if 40,000 well-trained Radwan forces of Hezbollah would have entered on that day under the cover of 5,000 rockets to Tel Aviv and 5,000 rockets to Jerusalem? And can you imagine at the same time if 500 ballistic missiles came over from Iran, as they did on another day, and another 100 from Hezbollah, from Houthi, and a few Syrian forces for good measure? How about if the Jordanians, I don't think, would have entered. I don't think Egypt or Jordan would have entered. But I think what could have happened on the same day was the Palestinians of East Jerusalem running into West Jerusalem, from Kalkilia running into Netanya, from Lod and Ramle running into Tel Aviv, Rishon LeZion, Chulon, Tel Aviv, and from Bethlehem running into Gush Etzion. It's not an exaggeration to say that on another day things could be very different. We woke up to a different reality. We took our eye off the ball. We really thought we were home and dry. We took Israel for granted. As my son Jonathan said, he said, Daddy, he said to me in the beginning of the war after he was injured, this is the war of independence of our generation. This is our generation stepping up to take its place amongst the generations of Jewish history. Shebechol dor vador umdim aleinu b'chalotenu. It's not so easy. But we tell our children, but you know what the real story is? The real story is that the same piece of matzah, which is lechem oni, which is broken, we will even eat the afikoman and will have the last word. And the afikoman in the time of the Beit HaMikdash was Ein Mafshiach Chag Pesach. Afikoman was the Korban Pesach. Do you know what taste will remain in your mouth? The taste of freedom and dignity. And yes, avadim hayinu b'paro b'Mitzrayim, but it doesn't end there. V'yotzienu Hashem Elokeinu misham, and Hashem brought us out. And the same piece of lechem oni, of halachmania, will turn in God's wisdom to be the bread of redemption. Why we couldn't have had a good piece of angel bakery on the way out after so many years of slavery, I don't know. Hashem wanted us to take the bread of affliction and take it with us and transform it into the bread of redemption. And yes, Shebechol dor vador umdim aleinu b'chalotenu, but it doesn't end there. The Hakadosh Baruch Hu matzilenu miyadam. Our enemies never end up destroying us. Sometimes they do terrible damage, like in the time of the Shoah. Sometimes Hashem intercedes in the time of Haman and everything gets turned on its head. And sometimes more pain and sometimes less. But the result is always the same. Those who wish to destroy the Jewish people always self-destruct. Nothing left of Egypt, nothing left of Nazi Germany, and there will be nothing left of Hamas. Because our enemies simply refuse to live and let live, but always attempt to hate and destroy and end up destroying themselves in the process. V'akadosh Baruch Hu matzilenu miyadam. We live in Hashem's world, and not in theirs. I sometimes feel that there's two lines I walk around a lot with. I just want to share them both with you before I conclude. Almost exactly a year ago, it was my father, should have been well, his 85th birthday. He aged tremendously between October 7th and March 17th. Thank God he's better, thank God. It was his 85th birthday in June, and it was the first time that we had together our whole family, all the children and all the grandchildren, except for Daniel, of course. And as everybody came up, my sister did what she always said. She said, all the grandchildren come for a picture with Grandpa Gil. And as they all went up, this was the first time they were all present without Daniel. And as it happened, as my wife saw them, she just totally broke down and burst into tears and went to the side room, and I went with her, of course. And my sister really came running after me. She said, Doron, I'm so sorry, I didn't think. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to cause you such pain. And somehow these words came to me, and I said to her, Ariella, it's okay. How can we deny Grandpa Gil the opportunity to have a picture with every one of his grandchildren, as he does every year? But you also can't deny us the right and opportunity to break down and cry. Everyone's got to do what they have to do. And I remember the words coming out of my mouth, I don't know where they came from. I said to her, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's so not okay. But it's okay. Our life will never be okay. But it really is okay. I don't know how, but it is. It's so not, but it is. In Hashem's world, everything is okay, even when it's not. And we have time, sometimes, one of my favorite movies, not that I watch movies, but there's a movie called Shawshank Redemption. And there's a number of very powerful parts in this movie, and one of them is when Andy Dufresne says to Red, he says, get busy living or get busy dying. You've got a choice to make in life. And one of the choices you have to make is the following. Does God live in our world, created in our image, on our terms? Or do we live in God's world, created in His image, on His terms? And in a podcast I was asked from somebody in South Africa, Perez, you gave so much of your life. I'm going to end with this, you gave so much of your life to give to the South African Jewish community. Does it seem fair to you that this has happened to you? How many people have lost children and you supported them? Does it seem fair? And that's why I share with you what I said. I said, I really don't understand the question. God owes me something. God works for me. In Hebrew, we've got an expression, who am I? But God rattles my cage, and all of a sudden I've got questions. 1.5 million children died in the Shoah. That's okay. The Klausenberger Rebbe lost a wife and 11 children, and countless, thousands of families have happened to. That's okay. And all of a sudden, who am I? God owes me something. Look at Jewish history. You have to make a decision. The only choice we ultimately have is how we choose to view life, with which eye we choose to see it, and how we choose to conduct ourselves. In whose world do we live? Doesn't make it easy. Nothing easy about going through this, but there are choices to make. And every single one of us had a choice. As you heard our son, there are some of these we want to leave for you. I brought a number of remaining ones. If not me, then who? You heard the story of our son. There are some outside, I think downstairs. I left them. And there's also some pictures of Beit HaMikdash that my wife has done. It's a whole story in honor of Daniel. It's explained there. But just before Avilan comes up, I want to tell you one final thing, and allow me to just segue into the elections very briefly, and I'll let Avilan make the pitch. Today we are no longer persecuted because we are Jews or because we practice Judaism. Post the Shoah, you can practice Judaism anywhere in the Western world, however you want to, any type of Judaism you want. And we are not persecuted for being part of the Jewish people. That was the Shoah. Today, as we all know, and it was sharpened so much on October 7th, we are persecuted for being Zionists. We are persecuted for support of the Jewish state. No longer is Judaism or the Jewish people the problem, it's the Jewish state. And you just have to replace Jews with Zionists, and it is only a question of time until all around the Western world you're going to start seeing signs, no Zionists allowed. Jews, you can't say that. You can't stand up anywhere in the Western world and say no Jews allowed. But you can say Zionists, of course. Of course you can. Because they are guilty of every terrible human crime, genocide, ethnic cleansing, all the most horrific blood libels of our generation. I now understand how people, as idiotic as it was, and as irrational as it was, how fair-mindedly people could believe that Jews killed Christian children, even though it says thou shalt not kill more than anything in the Torah. Children, innocent people, to use their blood. 9 times it says in the Torah, you're not allowed to eat blood. To eat matzah. What are you talking about? Who can think of such garbage? And yet people believed it. But now I understand it. Because people today literally believe that our children, your children, my children, kill Palestinian Muslims for the sake of it. How do you believe it? But people do. That's the new anti-Semitism. We were hated because we were powerless. The yellow star of Doron, of the wandering, powerless, pathetic Jew. Jews, get out of Germany, go to Palestine. And today, the powerful Jew, not represented by the Yehuda of the yellow star, but of the Magen David of the blue star. Now we hate it because we're powerful. Zionism means Jewish power, Jewish sovereignty. We hate you for that. You're not allowed to defend yourself. Jews, get out of Palestine, from the river to the sea, go back to Germany, or make up your mind. The changing color of the virus of anti-Semitism. Therefore, standing up today to be a Zionist it's what the Jewish people need. This World Zionist Congress election, which many of you may never have heard of because there has not been an election in Canada for decades, I just want to briefly demystify for you what a blessing it is. An opportunity is to stand up and join the Canadian Zionist Federation and say what all of you are, and you don't need to do it, but we need to do it formally, as I'll explain in a moment, that we are Zionists. There was an election in America, 250,000 people, 230 voted, never been such numbers, and now it's all around the world. And I want to explain to you what it is very quickly, in a minute or two, to demystify it for you. People don't know the most amazing thing. In Canada, you've got something called Crown land. It's a state land that belongs to the government. In America, it's called federal land, belongs to the federal government. In Israel, hold on to your chairs, the state land, the majority of inhabited state land, does not belong to the government and the Knesset. It belongs to an organization called Keren Kayemet Israel, JNF Kakal. And who owns Keren Kayemet Israel? The World Zionist Organization. And who owns the World Zionist Organization? Moi and, what's you in French? Mine, what's it? Ma and toi, right? That's who owns, I hope I said that correctly. That's who owns the World Zionist Organization. All of us. And incredibly, for whatever reason, which I'm going to now, it's been kept not under the Knesset, but under the Jewish people. The World Zionist Organization is owned 40% by the Israeli Knesset, 30% in an election every 5 years in the US, and 30% the rest of the world, of which Canada is a significant part. This has been kept under wraps for years. There haven't been elections in Canada. It would just be an internal agreement in the Zionist Federation. And the Israelis were very, very happy for us in Chutz La'aretz just to keep rolling it over so they could act as if they owned 100%. First, I understand why, because the land of Israel is in Israel, so that's fair. And secondly, they understand land development. But you know what the amazing thing is? It's 60% owned by the diaspora. And you know what? It controls billions of shekels. The house that I live in Yad Binyamin, we paid a 13% land tax. Kakao. Billions of shekels. So many people have joined the World Zionist Organization. For the first time, the ultra-Orthodox have joined. Some people are cynical about it. I think it's amazing. It's not that they decided overnight to start singing Hatikva, celebrating Yom HaAtzmaut, and sending their children to the army, although, please God, that will happen soon. They have realized the power and the influence. And if they're prepared to be Zionists because of that, Baruch haba. But no one sitting in this room needs me to tell you, join the Zionist movement because of what it can do for you. We as religious Zionists have been part of the Zionist endeavor since day one in order to see what we can do for it. How we can build the state of Israel together, the pain and the privilege. And it is absolutely critical that religious Zionists around the world come out in full force in order that it not be dominated by voices which don't bring the incredible integrity, integration of Torah and Zionism, religious Zionism, modern Orthodoxy, all the balance and bridge-building qualities and unifying qualities are so desperately needed in the world and in Zionism today. And Ravilan's going to come up and tell you, come up Ravilan, how much you can gain from it as well. And I want to urge you not to leave here until you voted. I know that I slept on, but I promise I won't come back for a while. I mean, I might come back for a while. And even if you have voted, make sure that your spouse has voted. And if your spouse has voted, have your children and parents and everybody you know in Canada voted. There's only 5 or 6 days to go. And we have a tremendous opportunity of our religious Zionist community around the world, and especially in Canada, where we play such a major role, stepping up, Imlo Ani Azmi, to support our community, to have our voice heard in Israel. And Ravilan will also explain how our voice in Israel can help you. Thank you very much. All of the best.
Thank you so much, Doron. It's always a great idea to give a pitch after one of the most emotional, deep, meaningful speeches, so thank you for giving me that honor. But I really do believe that the thing that, it's kind of a question, and I always look at Rav Doron, and working with Rav Doron, I'm always in awe. As somebody who's been through so much, I've worked with Rav Doron for 7-8 years, and so to see the journey as well as the fact that Rav Doron's life, his mission, and his vision is exactly the same as it was before October 7th, as it is today. It's more invigorated, more clear, but it's the same mission. And the reason why is because the reason why so many of our community members in Israel and the diaspora ran to the front lines following October 7th. It's the same reason why so many of the community members here, both many of our children going to the army. I know I walked around Faraza and saw community members from Montreal speak to their parents afterwards, seeing them hanging out with their units, ready to go into Gaza. I know that some of the community members' children were in Gaza last week. What gives them that strength? What gives the strength to the hundreds of community members that did drives and sent money and built and went on missions? What gives them that strength? I believe that we're part of a very, very special community. A community that believes in the whole land of Israel. It believes deeply, deeply in the roots of our Torah, and the Torah drives us. And it believes that we care about every single Jew, no matter what, and we're going to stand up and be there when any Jew in the world needs our help. And there's something that drives that. There's a reason why this community is so strong, and it's because of the institutions that are educating our children, are building this, are educating our adults. The institutions, our shows, our schools, our camps, our youth movements, our Batei Midrash, that have this powerful message. It is the most powerful message in the Jewish world today. Religious Zionism is the message that is spreading throughout the world, that is making sure that we are unequivocally loving our past, our Torah and our traditions, and are committed to the future of the Jewish people no matter what, and to every Jew around the world. That is what our community stands for. And we would like to continue to empower our communities and our youth to have that same vision. This election is one piece of that. We would like to invest more and more into the Montreal Jewish community. We would like to invest more and more into the Canadian Jewish community. And we are simply just asking you at this point to join us and partner with us for the next 6 days, in this opportunity for us to be able to give you guys lots more money. That's all it is. So please, this is the pitch. We're not asking you for any money, maybe $2 a vote, but we're not asking, we want to give more money to the Canadian Jewish community. to the religious Zionist community, to the community around the world, to spread this message, to build this message, to help more Jews, to help more people. We would like to be given that koach. So please partner with us. And that means anyone who did not vote, please take the time to do so. You can just scan it. We have a staff around that can help you if it's difficult. It is literally the most annoying way to vote in the world. And that's part of what the hardship of what it means to be a Jew. But we are resilient people, and we'll be able to overcome and get that pin and be able to put it in. And the email, we put our email in 6 times. 6 times you may put in your email in order to vote, but it's worth it. So please do so. And furthermore, please, every person here is 5, 6, 7 votes. Everyone here has friends and family that are just within the outskirts of our community. Please take the time to send it to them. Text them, email them, make sure, call them on the phone and say, this is important to our community. It will help us continue to strengthen the community and be a community that is caring about the entire Jewish people, unites the Jewish people, fights for the Jewish people, and is always on the front line for the Jewish people. Have a wonderful night, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Elad. Thank you so much, Rabbi Doron. It really is a true blessing. Everyone here is so inspired and so invigorated by your message, as we have been for the past 20 months. So thank you for being who you are and showing the strength. Both you and your wife, Shelley, and the whole family should know only bracha and nachas to come. Thank you guys for coming. We'll daven Ma'ariv at 9:35 downstairs. So it's in 7 minutes in the downstairs sanctuary. We should only be able to gather in good times of joy, times of nachas, and times of pride.